Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. This is Kemi, and I'm here to talk about Beyond the Gates Season 2, Episode 90. Now, before we begin, make sure you guys are liking, subscribing, and turning on your post notifications so you'll know whenever I post. All right, so we start off the episode with Samantha stressing out because Donnell isn't there and she hasn't seen him, and she's freaking out because she's just like, oh my gosh, I'm not going to have anyone to escort me or whatever. So we meet Jessica's parents and they show up. Um, she introduces them to Tyrell and Samantha. We see the girl. We then find out that it's time for them to line up because they're getting ready to start or whatever. And again, just Samantha is like freaking out. So they're backstage and we see Chessie. She's making fun of Samantha not having a date and all this other stuff. And Jessica sticks up for Samantha. And I was just like, gosh, I wish Samantha would open her mouth. Like, she's like Nicole. She just lets people walk all over her and don't say nothing. But Jessica sticks up for her and tells, gets gets Chessie to run away or whatever. So we see in the ballroom, we see sorry. So we're in the ballroom and all, we have everyone doing their little talk. So we see Vernon and Anita going to sit down and being happy that they're at the Cotilion. We see Nicole and Danny, still bickering with each other, like play bickering with each other or whatever at a table. And Anita comes and sits down with them, and they're checking on her, making sure she's okay. Vernon walks away to go, mingle or whatever. We see him talking with his family or whatever. So Kat and Chelsea come up and they're just like, it's gonna be a mess. It's Something's wrong. So they tell her that Miss Imogene, which is the coordinator, she's sick, and all of her all of her staff is also sick. They all came down with the bug except for one lady, but she has like severe stage fright, so they don't have anyone to host the event. So Anita says, okay, this is what we're gonna do. So they all decide to collectively, each one of them will take a portion of the program and they'll host it. And Kat and Chelsea will be the main host. So we see Kat and Chelsea, they get everybody's attention and they are at the podium and they're talking about what the cotillion means to everybody, what it stands for, X, Y, and Z. So then Kat mixed up the what's it called? The cue cards. So the order of how the ladies practice that they were going to be coming out is no longer going to be that way because again they were mixed up. So they start calling out the ladies. So they call out one lady, one of the girls, and they give her spill. I think she's going to Spelman, X, Y, and Z. They did another lady, she was doing X, Y, and Z. Then they call Samantha, and again, Donnell still isn't there. Sorry, before I get to that part, we saw Martin and Smitty were talking to Vanessa and they were telling her, hey, have you heard from Donnell? Because he's not here. And Samantha is freaking out because Samantha had texted them that she hasn't seen Tyrell or what I mean, she hasn't seen Donnell or whatever. So Vanessa goes to the hallway, she makes a call going off on him, but then also saying, please let me know you're okay. But we also see Naomi, she's outside, looking at her phone, waiting to hear from Ted, or I mean, not Ted, but Jacob or whatever. So they're both worried about somebody. So now we get to the ladies are lining up or whatever. Sorry. I apologize, y'all. We see, let's see. And again, I do apologize. Here we go. Okay, there we go. All right, so we see the ladies. They're all, they're calling out their names or whatever. So they've called out two ladies. Now they call out Samantha's name. Not Jacob. Martin gets up to go and be her escort just in case. And as she's about to walk out, Jessica tells her, "You keep your head up. You can escort yourself. You don't need a man." Da 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 da. She walks. She gets ready to walk out, and Chessie steps on her shoe, on her dress, on the back of her dress, and she starts to tumble. And Donnell is there to catch her before she actually falls. And he was just like, sorry. And she was just like, no, you're right on time or whatever. So she does her little entrance, and we find out that her GPA, she's a junior, her GPA is 3.8. She talks about her service project. Which is the free clinic, and then they say her parents, Martin and Smitty, and her mother, June. And June is touched by this, that they that she was included in who her parents were, who her family was or whatever. So then we see Chessie gets introduced, and she has a 3.2 GPA. Her service project was a vanity project, which was a project for her family's company, not company, but like a botanical garden or something like that. And um she raised money for that or whatever. She's going to Banneker in the fall. So then we see Jessica come out. They introduce Jessica. Her GPA is 4.0. Her service project, they talk about her service project, which was, working with anger, doing conflict resolution with kids and all this other stuff, and that she'll be going to UCLA in the fall. So she does a little like after they introduce you, you're supposed to curtsy or whatever. She curtsies, and then she does this little dance move, and everybody's just like like laughing at her. Some people are just like, oh my god, and some people are laughing or whatever. So um they then we see after after they do that, we see Danny and Nicole. They introduce the debutantes to do their waltz. So they introduced them. They're going to do the waltz or whatever. So we see the waltz. It was so cute. I really like this. I like these episodes. These were really cute. These were really good. So they do their little dance. They do a traditional waltz, and then they changed into like a more modern style dancing with also incorporating waltz in it. And then they finish off and do the waltz or whatever. And some people were like, again, some people were just like, okay, okay. And some people were just like, oh my God, this is like, not what's up or whatever. So they did all of that. Everybody is happy. So then they all break away, and they're in the hallway. Everyone is taking pictures or whatever. So we see Andre, he's taking pictures of everybody in the family, Um, Samantha's taking pictures with her. She takes pictures with Martin and with her dads. Then Jessica and Tyrell are trying to take a picture, but her parents come and snatch her up, and her dad calls her a video vixen and all this other stuff. And it's just like, child, her daddy was doing too much, but it is what it is. So Tyrell ends up taking pictures with June and Samantha. So they're, doing everything or whatever. Then we see Vanessa. She's chastising Donnell for not letting her know where he was. And he says, he had the test, and he had a flat tire, and he was trying to hurry up and get there. So he wasn't trying to stop and answer the phone or whatever. So she was just like, I'm cool, good, whatever. We see Naomi, she's still checking her phone, and Smitty brings her a glass. He brings her something to drink and asks if she's heard from Jacob, and she's just like, no. So, so they're worried about that. Um, let's see, we see Nathan, because they're now all back in the ballroom, and they're all dancing and having a little fun or whatever. We see Nathan. He asked Samantha for a dance, and she was just like no. And she tells him to go dance with Chessie. He calls her a bitch. Tyrell steps in and checks him or whatever. What's his name? What's his boy's name? Nathan. Nathan, starts making fun of Tyrell, and Tyrell is just like, I'm gonna beat you up, like I'll beat you up, and all this other stuff. And Vernon, was it Vernon? No, Andre and Ted steps in and tells him to go take a walk or whatever. So he walks off. Not Martin. Ted is telling him that he's proud of him for standing up for his sister. We see Chessie and what's it called? And Anastasia in the hallway. They're trying to get somebody to help them take a picture, but nobody wants to take their picture. So Anastasia is complaining about how this was supposed to be her night, and the Duprees always takes center stage, and Chessie is just like, I'm the Deb, and she'll just like, your night. So they just end up taking a selfie on their own or whatever. So we see Kat. She's talking with Ted, because Ted was texting somebody, and she was just like, "Oh, were you texting Shanice?" And he was just like, "No." And she was just like, "Well, all the important." She was like, "Well, who were you texting? Because all the important women in your life are here." And then he's just like, and she was just like, "Oh, Eva." And I was just like, "Girl." Lita, he's gonna put Eva before you. At this point, he's putting Eva before you. Understand it, take heed to it, act accordingly. Quit quit trying to get him to do something outside of that, because he's not. He's just not. So she he tells her that he was telling her that a lot of people were complimenting Samantha and Jessica's hair, and she just wanted to know, and he just wanted her to know or whatever. And he says that she and Eva could have debuted together, and she makes a face. Now I will say, I know people were talking about this before, but I honestly don't believe that Eva would have debuted with Kat, or especially not in Barrington County. She probably would have had her debut somewhere else, but she wouldn't have had it with Barrington County if they found out about who she was, especially if she was a product of an affair, first of all. So that's frowned upon in high society. Two, if Nicole would have left him when she found that out way back then, Ted wouldn't have been a part of all of this. Like all of this that they're doing, Ted wouldn't have been a part of that. He would only be a part of it just of of because of Kat. And even so, if Nicole would have left Ted back then, if she would have found out about the affair back then, and she would have left him, and he would have stayed with he would have stayed with Leslie and raised Eva, I don't think that Kat would want him in her life. So he would not have done any of this. He would have had a completely different life than the life that he has. So I really don't believe that Eva would have been a part of this. She may have debuted because that's something that Ted was just like, oh, well, one daughter did it. Let me have my other daughter debut. But she would have been a debutante somewhere else. It wouldn't have been in Fairmont Crest, and it wouldn't have been with Barrington County, because they would not have allowed that. I truly believe that. But that's my thought. And it ain't about the money, and it's not about that. It's just that she wouldn't have been able to be a debutante where the Dupree family is a part of. She would have had to be a debutante somewhere else. So that's a completely different story. But her and Kat and Eva debuting together, that would not have happened unless she was Nicole's daughter. That's the only way that would have happened. But she wasn't, so she wasn't going to be a part of that. So she asked him if she's seen Eva, not Eva, but if she's seen Nicole, and she says, oh, I think she was outside or whatever. So we had seen a scene of when they were taking the pictures. Nicole and Ted were taking pictures with Samantha, and Andre was trying to get them to get closer together. But as they were trying to take the picture, Nicole had got a call, so she had to go and she had to take the call or whatever. So we see Nicole. So Yes, Samantha, not Samantha. Kat is asking if she's seen Nicole because they're about to crown Platinum Deb. He says, I'll go find her. So he goes and he sees Nicole, and she's on the phone with a patient, and she's very frantic. Something is wrong. She has to leave. So Ted tells her, go ahead. All the rest of the family are here. I'll let them know. So she leaves. We see June. She runs into sorry y'all, it's like a bunch of stuff's been going on, so it was couldn't have a lot of pictures up. Sorry y'all. So we see June. She runs into let me see. We see June. She runs into Nathan in the back, and Nathan is she smells of alcohol. He's getting drunk, and she's telling him, "You tripping," basically. So he's just like, "Girl, whatever. Leave me alone." So we see Jessica and Tyrell, and Jessica is ready to leave. She's like over it. Tyrell is just like, okay, cool, we can go. Um, cool, we can go, but I forgot that I got these bodyguards. I got to figure out how to, maneuver or whatever. And she was just like, I got you. So they leave. And then we see Anita come up, and she's about to introduce the person who's going to introduce the Platinum Deb. So, she gives her speech or whatever. And then she introduces the person, which was Deanna. And she comes out in her gothic chic. And I was just like, yes, ma'am. She did look good. I was just like, okay. So she comes out in her gothic chic or whatever to give the say who's the Platinum Deb or whatever. She let's see. We see Vernon and Anita. They're talking about how much of a blessing it is there. We see Samantha's parents are looking for her and Tyrell. They come up to Martin, and Martin's just like, oh, they're um they're somewhere around here. And Dad was just like, so you knew they was gone and you ain't want to tell nobody or whatever. And it's just like, sir, get the hell out of my face. So, oh yeah, so when Anita was, going up, when Anita came up there, she had got a standing ovation or whatever. She announces Deanna, and um Deanna and not Deanna, Donnell and Vanessa are shocked that she's there because they didn't know. So she gives her speech about who what is a platinum dab and why they would become a platinum dab or whatever. And she opens up the card and she's just like, something's wrong. Sorry about that. So she gives her speech about what a platinum deb is or whatnot, and then she looks at the card because she's about to say who the platinum deb is. She looks at the card and she's just like, something's wrong. And then they're just like, everybody's just like, oh wow. I did miss a few things. I apologize. Yeah, I missed a couple of things, and that's that whole little cotillion special because again, it was everywhere. I know we seen Anita, Nicole, and Ted were giving googly eyes at each other, and Anita was noticing it, and she was just like, you know. But it was cute. Love the cotillions. I love the cotillion stuff. So now over to the other part of the story, I mean, of what was going on in this episode. So we see Randy. He's at Orphe Jeans, and he gets a call from Joey telling him to go to the warehouse. So he's just like, all right, I'm gonna go to the warehouse. So we see Malone and Elon. They are in a cop car, and they're like outside of the perimeter of the warehouse, and they're on standby. They got other cops waiting or whatever. So they're doing their stakeout or whatever, and they're going over what the plan is tonight. They want to know, Malone hopes that he wanted Leah to be there so that he could bust her because he was just like, you're supposed to be my friend and this is what you're doing. Like, he wants to bust her, whatever. So they see someone approaching and they figure that it's about to go down or whatever. So we see it was Grayson. So he comes in and Jacob, calls Ren over, tells him that, he's here. Ren asks him about how his guts are feeling. And he says, I'm glad that you staying in line. Grayson is nervous or whatever. We then see Randy get caught and they put him in the back of the cop car with Elon and Malone, and they're asking him, does Joey have anything to do with this? Like, why are you here? And he was like, trying to play dumb. Like, I was just taking a walk and y'all just hem me up and da 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 da, all this other stuff. And it was just like, sir, why were you taking a walk in this area? Like, okay. So they so yeah, so we see someone else show up and it's Derek. And let's see. Oh yeah, so it's Derek and Jacob tells him like he needs to leave. Like, why are you here? And Derek is just like, what's going on? Why do you look like that? Why are you dressed like that? Like, what's going on? And it's just like, didn't Grayson tell you that this man was undercover? And you looking like, so anyway, so Jacob pulls him in and he's just like, what if anybody sees you? And he was just like, oh, I waited for the guy that was who was at the door to walk away, and then I came in and all this other stuff. And Jacob is just like, you always trying to save somebody. Go sit down somewhere. Like, go because he realizes that he followed Grayson, and he was just like, just go back here, and when I get the all clear, I'm gonna get you out of here. And he was just like, okay. So Red calls out to Jacob, and he was just like, man, what you doing? And he was just like, I was just checking, I was just doing the last check, and I was moving some boxes or whatever. So he was just like, all right. So Jacob tells Derek, because Derek is behind some crates now, he's telling him, stay out of sight, like, don't let nobody see you. And he was just like, all right. So let's see. Oh yeah. Oh, he asked him, what does he know? Like, while he's moving things around, when he's behind that crate, he asks Derek, what does he know? And then Derek tells him, and Jacob says, it was a bad move. You come in, and when he gives him the word, he needs to leave. So Jacob is, over there talking to Derek or whatever, and then Leah shows up. And when he hears her voice, he's just like, oh snap. So he tries to, keep himself disguised, like, because at first his hat was behind his head, so then he quickly turns it in front of him or whatever, and he's doing all of this. And Leah is talking to Ren, and she's talking about, I want to, because Grayson is also standing there. Leah is talking about, I want to meet the big wigs and da 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 da, all this other stuff. And then he's just like, Ren was just like, all right, cool, whatever. So then she asked Ren, what about your courier guy? Where is he? I want to make sure he's like, it's all good. And Ren was just like, he already put him in line. And she was just like, well, I want to make sure. And he was just like, well, he over there. And I was just like, in that moment, when, so she walks up to Jacob, and Jacob again has his head down, has a hat in front of his face, and Leah's over here talking to him, and he's just like, with his accent, yep, I got this, trying to not be seen or whatever. And she was just like, turn around. And I was just like, in that moment, Grayson, why didn't you call out to Leah and tell her, hey, can you come check this stuff? Like, why you ain't try to even attempt to help this man? You was just standing there watching it, and I was so annoyed. I was just like, why are you just standing there watching? Like, what is wrong with you? Like, what is wrong with you? You was legit just standing there watching him, and I was just like, oh, so annoying. So Jacob finally turns around and she sees him. um she sees who he is. And you know uh let's see. Yeah, so he turns around and she sees him and she's just like, "Oh my God, Jacob Hawthorne, I have nothing to do." And she folds instantly. I was just like, "Girl, you was just big and bad just a few minutes ago, and now you done folded like I couldn't." So she folds, and then Ren, we saw while she was talking to Jacob trying to get him to turn around, we seen Ren on the phone. So after she folds, gets off the phone and he was just like, I just got word from my person when my contact at the prosecutor's office that we got a rat. And so Jacob is just like, oh snap. But he snatches up Grayson instead. And he was just like, I knew you couldn't be trusted. And he tells Jacob to get rid of him. So Jacob pulls out his pew pew and then he turns it on Ren. And Ren starts, he starts going off on him. Like, I thought you was this, you really a cop, you ain't gonna be safe, da 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 da, all this other stuff. And as he's doing that, we see somebody want to hit one of Ren's goons coming up from behind Jacob because Jacob ain't paying attention. And he got his pew pew out and he about to pew pew. And then and oh yeah, and Derek sees this, and then all of a sudden all hell breaks loose. You hear shots fired. um Everything is just going everything everywhere, everybody's falling here, falling there. um Elon and um Elon and Marcel running in because they heard shots fired. Then we see Ren um grab the gun, the pew pew, my bad. He grabs the pew pew and he tries to run out, but the cops stop him and then they arrest him. And then we see Jacob on the ground, and that's how the episode ends. So this was, I didn't show it. I left this picture up. I'm sorry, y'all. I had different pictures. I had this picture. I had this picture. And then this picture. This is the last one. I guess, yeah. But yeah, that was the episode. This episode was funny. It was funny. It was good. It was funny. I loved it. I can't stop laughing. But yeah, make sure you guys are liking, subscribing, and turning on your post notifications so you'll know whenever I post. Get down in the comments. Tell me what you guys thought of this episode. Also, make sure you guys are following me on all platforms. Kemi Tuned In, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, and Twitter. And I will see you guys in the next one.